This is a drawing tutorial that combines gesture drawing with some measuring techniques that you probably learned in class. Basically what we have here is a black and white photocopy of a Paul Cézanne painting of fruit. And at the bottom you'll see there's a color copy, a small one, and then a revised one which shows only the darkest darks and the lightest lights. And what I like to do is talk about the transformation from color into grayscale. So whenever you have color, it has a corresponding gray. Here what we're doing is we're dividing the image into sections. If you are fairly confident with your drawing skills, just dividing it in half or across is sufficient to really give you some helpful guidance about where things are located on the image and where to put them on your paper. So by dividing the photocopy in half and then dividing the same piece of paper that you're drawing on in half, it will give you a starting point to go with. So you basically at that point want to start gesturing in the main shapes, the general movement, the general idea of the figures. And the reason why you don't want to rely too much on that cross or the grid is that sometimes it will cause you to focus too much on the details, or it will cause you to work from one side to the other, or top to bottom, or grid to grid, which you don't want to do. The advantage of establishing a loose gesture drawing in the beginning is that you basically take all of the huge mistakes out of the equation. By gesturing in the main shapes, you get all of those problems out of the way, and you don't waste a lot of time in the end if you happen to make a big mistake as far as size or location. So gesturing in loosely is a good way to start, and then little by little you build upon that, a little more detail and making revisions as you go. Don't think about them as mistakes. They're changes or revisions or corrections even. So at this point, I'm just putting in major shapes, and I'm not worried too much about contour, although you will have some outside outlining and some contours involved, but you really want to establish just general sizes and general shapes at this point, and then move on to the darkest values. The same approach as you would probably take in a foundation painting course. It's like an underdrawing. In painting, it would be an underpainting. So you're establishing those darkest darks and just general shapes in the beginning. Again, you're trying to get away from the outlines. Whenever you outline something, it flattens it or makes it look like a cutout or a cartoon or illustration. So that's really something that's very common in beginning drawing students. Mistakes is that they want to outline things. So stay away from the outline, stay away from the details, establish the dark values, do a lot of smudging, work very quickly, try to think about it as just abstract shapes, even if they are objects that you recognize, representational shapes such as fruit or a plate. Don't think about it as those types of objects. Think about it as darks and lights and angles and shapes, and then start looking at location and placement. You can draw in your mind an imaginary line across the paper, or connect shapes or objects within the drawing and determine which one is higher, which one is lower, what angles you have, whether it's leaning to the left or to the right. Those are things, measuring techniques and sighting techniques that you learn in further classes. However, at this point, use more your seeing and responding type of mentality instead of measuring. Try to combine the advantages of gesture drawing with some of the techniques that you have learned in measuring and sighting, and then work from the general to the specific again. After you have worked a little bit with the shapes and you made all of the major changes and major adjustments that you need, really go back in and reinforce those darkest darks. I like using the stick vine charcoal with these types of drawings because it blends very easily. The compressed charcoal is a little bit too permanent and too dark for me, very hard to blend. So use the stick charcoal at this stage of your artistic development. Turning the the photo and your work upside down is very, very important. Even professional artists still do this. I do this all the time. All my students will do this. It's very important because it gives you a fresh point of view. It turns whatever you're drawing upside down and you're able to see it from a fresh point of view, and you're not focused on how you think it should look. So these are some points, some tips. Try them. Remember to step back. Always flip it upside down, right side up about every 10-15 minutes, and hopefully you'll have some good success.